Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at 7 foods that a lot of people think are healthy but really aren't. We call them imposter foods.
Yeah, these are those foods that kind of trick you into thinking they're good for you, but when you take a closer look,
They realize they're not so good.
right, and a lot of these foods are marketed toward families, so we're going to
Uh-huh.
talk about why it's especially important to be aware of these if you've got kids.
Exactly. So, to kick things off, let's talk about fruit smoothies. I think a lot of us are guilty of assuming that just because a smoothie has fruit in it, it's automatically healthy, so what's the problem?
Yeah, well, smoothies can be a part of a healthy diet, for sure. The issue is that a lot of the store-bought ones, especially, are packed with added sugar.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes even more sugar than you'd find in a can of soda.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize it was that much. So, it's not just the sugar from the fruit itself.
Exactly. They use other types of sugars to sweeten them up and makes them taste better. Things like concentrated fruit juice or syrups. And all that added sugar can cause your blood sugar to spike, which over time can lead to health problems.
So even if the label says no sugar added, I should still double check the ingredient list for those sneaky syrups, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to watch out for is the portion size.
Mm-hmm.
A small smoothie might seem reasonable, but a large one can easily have a whole day's worth of sugar.
You know what? This is a good reminder to always check those nutrition labels. You never know how much sugar is hiding in something that looks healthy.
It's crazy, right?
It is. Okay, so let's move on to another breakfast favorite that often falls into that imposter food category, breakfast cereal.
Ah, yes.
I remember thinking as a kid that those brightly colored cereal boxes were the definition of a healthy breakfast.
Right.
So what's the issue with cereal then?
So just like with smoothies, the problem is all the added sugar. Even the cereals marketed as healthy or whole grain can have a ton of sugar, and they often use different names for sugar to make it less obvious, like corn syrup or honey.
So how can we tell if a cereal is actually a healthy choice then?
Best thing to do is look past that front of the box and go straight to the nutrition label. Look at the grams of sugar per serving and what percentage of your daily sugar intake that one serving represents.
Okay.
A good rule of thumb is to try and stick with cereals that have less than 10 grams of sugar per serving.
That's a great tip. I'm definitely going to be checking those labels more carefully from now on. Speaking of hidden surprises, let's talk about rice cakes.
Okay.
I know they have a reputation for being pretty bland,
Right.
but are there other reasons to avoid them?
Well, there is something you might find kind of interesting about rice cakes. It has to do with the way rice is grown and its ability to absorb certain things from the environment, like arsenic.
Wait, arsenic? That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it can be a little scary, especially for young children.
Yeah.
So rice naturally absorbs arsenic from the soil and water where it grows.
I had no idea.
And while the levels in a typical serving of rice aren't usually a huge concern, the process of making rice cakes actually concentrates the rice, which means they can have much higher levels of arsenic.
Oh, wow. So rice cakes are actually kind of bad for you.
Well, the FDA has actually put out guidelines specifically about rice consumption for babies and toddlers because of this arsenic issue. They recommend limiting how much rice young kids eat and suggest offering other grains instead, like oats or barley.
That makes sense. I guess it's just another reminder that even seemingly harmless foods can have some downsides.
Absolutely.
That's why I love doing these deep dives. You learn so much about the food you eat every day.
Exactly. It's all about being informed.
Exactly. All right, so we've tackled breakfast so far. Now let's move on to another category that's often marketed as healthy dehydrated fruits and nuts.
Ah, yes.
I'm talking about those trail mixes and fruit snacks. I used to think I was making a healthy choice grabbing those.
Yeah, well, while dried fruits and nuts can be nutritious, the problem is that many commercially prepared versions have a lot of added sugar. Manufacturers often add sugar during the drying process to enhance the flavor and sweetness.
So it's not just the natural sugars in the fruit then?
Right.
Yeah.
You end up with a concentrated dose of both natural and added sugars, and to make matters worse, some brands even coat the dried fruits in additional sugar or syrups.
Wow, sneaky. So how can you tell if a dried fruit or nut snack is actually a good choice?
The key is to check that ingredient list. Look for brands that only use fruit and nuts without any added sugars or syrups. And remember, even with the unsweetened varieties, portion control is still important. Dried fruits are more concentrated in calories and sugar than fresh fruit, so a little goes a long way.
Okay, that makes sense. It's all about being mindful of those hidden sugars. Now let's talk about another snack that often gets a health halo, granola bars.
Okay.
Are they really as healthy as they seem?
Yeah, so like with a lot of processed foods, the healthfulness of granola bars can really vary.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess it's not as easy as just grabbing any granola bar off the shelf.
Exactly. It all comes down to looking past those marketing claims on the front of the package and really checking the ingredient list and nutrition facts.
So what should we be looking for specifically?
First off, check the sugar content. Some granola bars have as much sugar as a candy bar, often from added sugars like corn syrup honey or agave.
Hmm.
You want to aim for bars with less than 10 grams of sugar per serving.
Okay, less sugar is better. What about the other ingredients?
Ideally, you want to see whole grains listed as the first ingredient, not refined grains like white flour. Also, pay attention to the types of fats. You want to look for bars that use healthy fats like nuts and seeds, rather than ones made with partially hydrogenated oils or other unhealthy fats.
This is a lot to keep track of. Decoding those nutrition labels is a skill in itself.
It does take practice, but it's definitely worth the effort. You'll start to recognize the imposter granola bars and can pick the truly healthy ones.
All right, so we've talked about some breakfast options and snacks. What about yogurt? I mean, it's full of probiotics and protein, so it's got to be good for you, right?
Yogurt can definitely be a nutritious choice, but there's a huge variety out there, and some are much healthier than others.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. What's the catch with yogurt?
You guessed it, added sugar.
Figures?
A lot of flavored yogurts, especially the ones marketed toward kids, are packed with sugar to make them taste better. And just like with granola bars, the type of sugar matters.
Okay, so how do we tell the difference between a truly healthy yogurt and an imposter?
Plain, unsweetened yogurt is always your best bet. You can add your own fresh fruit honey or a sprinkle of granola for sweetness and texture.
Oh, okay.
If you do go for flavored yogurt, check the ingredient list and choose those with as little added sugar as possible. Ideally, less than 10 grams per serving.
That's a good strategy. I like the idea of starting with plain yogurt and adding my own toppings. Now, speaking of quick and easy breakfast options, let's talk about instant oatmeal. I've definitely relied on those convenient packets in the past. Are they a healthy way to start the day?
Instant oatmeal can be a fast and easy breakfast. But similar to flavored yogurt, it's important to choose wisely. The problem is that many instant oatmeal varieties are full of added sugar, artificial flavors, and preservatives.
So the basic ingredient oatmeal is healthy, but it's all the added stuff that turns it into an imposter food.
Exactly. And like with yogurt, you can easily make a healthier version at home. Rolled oats or steel-cut oats cooked with water or milk are a much better choice.
Okay.
And then you can add your own toppings like fresh fruit nuts or a drizzle of honey for some sweetness.
I like that. That seems like a recurring theme here is that making things from scratch gives you more control over the ingredients and how healthy your food is.
Absolutely. Now, switching gears a bit, let's talk about another food category that's often marketed as healthy protein bars.
Okay.
A lot of people use them as a quick protein boost after a workout or as a meal replacement. Are they living up to the hype?
I'm always a little skeptical of anything that claims to be a meal replacement. What's the deal with protein bars?
Well, while protein bars can be a convenient way to get some protein, you got to be careful. Many protein bars are basically just glorified candy bars full of added sugar, unhealthy fats, and artificial ingredients.
It's disappointing, but not surprising. What should we be looking for when choosing a protein bar?
The most important thing is to check the protein source. Look for bars made with whole food protein sources like nut seeds or whey protein concentrate, and avoid bars that list protein isolates or hydrolysates of the main protein source. Those are more processed.
That's interesting. I never knew there were different types of protein to watch out for. What about the other ingredients?
Just like with granola bars, you want to pick bars with as little added sugar as possible, ideally less than 10 grams per serving. And steer clear of bars that have unhealthy fats like partially hydrogenated oils or trans fats.
Okay, so protein bars can be a good option, but it's all about choosing the right one. Now I have to ask about salad dressing. I mean, salad itself is healthy, but what about the dressing? Can you actually ruin a perfectly healthy salad with the wrong dressing?
You bring up a good point. Salad dressing can definitely make or break a healthy salad. Many store-bought dressings are loaded with added sugars, unhealthy fats, and artificial ingredients.
So even if you're carefully choosing healthy greens and toppings, you could be sabotaging your salad with a sugary, unhealthy dressing.
Exactly. It's like taking one step forward and two steps back.
Right.
But the good news is there are tons of healthy and delicious dressing options out there.
So what's the solution then?
The best way to go is to make your own salad dressings at home.
Oh, really?
It's super easy, and you can control exactly what goes in them and customize the flavor to your liking.
I have never thought about making my own salad dressing, but that makes so much sense. What are some basic ingredients I could use?
You can make some amazing dressings with just a few simple ingredients, like olive oil, vinegar, lemon juice, herbs, and spices. Just whisk everything together in a bowl or shake it up in a jar.
That sounds easy enough. I'm definitely going to try that. I love the idea of having complete control over what goes in my dressing. Welcome back for the last part of our deep dive. It's kind of wild how many foods seem healthy but actually have some secrets.
Yeah, it really shows how important it is to be careful and not just believe everything you see on a package.
You know, talking about all these imposter foods, it makes me realize just how powerful food marketing can be.
For sure. We're always getting hit with messages about what's healthy and what's not. It's easy to get tricked by fancy packaging buzzwords and even celebrity endorsements.
I know, I've definitely fallen for that. I've bought stuff based on a slogan or a health claim that ended up being totally misleading.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Food companies know how to make us want those healthy choices. And they use all sorts of marketing tricks to make their products look amazing, even when they're not so good for us.
So how do we avoid those marketing traps? How can we become smarter shoppers?
I think the best thing to do is learn as much as you can and look at food labels with a critical eye.
That makes sense. But there's so much information out there. Where do we even start?
A good place to begin is to understand some basic nutrition principles. Learn about different sugars, fats, and food additives. Once you have that knowledge, you can start to understand ingredient lists and nutrition labels better.
So it's about educating ourselves and not just blindly trusting what we see on the package.
Right. Remember that marketing is designed to sell products, not necessarily to make you healthier. Your health is your own responsibility, and learning about the food you eat is a big step towards taking control of your well-being.
That's a great point. It's about being empowered to make good choices. So before we wrap up, is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind when making food choices?
One thing to remember is that not all processed foods are bad. There are plenty of convenient options that are also nutritious. The trick is to be choosy and pick wisely.
Right. It's not about avoiding all processed foods, just being aware and making good decisions.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to try cooking at home. When you cook your own meals, you can control the ingredients and create healthy, tasty food that fits your preferences.
That's a great point. Well, this deep dive has been super interesting. We've busted some myths, uncovered some truths, and hopefully helped you become a more informed shopper.
Remember, appearances can be deceiving when it comes to food marketing. Don't fall for those imposter foods. Be alert, read those labels, and put your health first.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into imposter foods. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration and learned a few things along the way.
As you head out to the grocery store, we'll leave you with this question. What seemingly healthy food in your pantry might actually be an imposter?
Let us know what you think and share any surprising discoveries you make. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy and healthy eating.